Hello, welcome once again to the Power Play Point podcast. I am your host, the Blue Liner on Point, and as always, I'm speaking to you live to tape, really live. We'll explain that in a second here. From beautiful downtown Glen Burnie, Maryland, and with me are not one but two co-hosts. Of course, you know one of them already, the beautiful, wonderful mermaid from Centerville, Virginia. She is Anna Knox.
Yes, this is all new. Like this, let's hope that this is going to be like a good, you know, I don't know, vibe going into the first round for us. We don't usually go live. I usually hate the camera, but I kind of had to get over my phobia with distance learning. So yeah, this is fun.
You ought to be a pro at this by now.
I should be. But then like when you have to like watch yourself and you're like, I make really stupid facial expressions, it's kind of embarrassing. So it's all good. But this look at this kick-ass background and your kick-ass background. I love it.
Both made by our producer slash temporary co-host for this episode 141. Let's bring him in now. That's, of course, Mr. Robbie Gross from the Sports on the Hill podcast. Hello, Robbie.
Hello. How are you guys doing?
Awesome.
Pretty good.
Especially after the game today.
Yes, most definitely. So to quickly explain what and why we're doing here, Robbie and Anna and I, over the course of the last 48 hours or so, we got to discussing over Facebook Messenger, make this something of a kind of a special episode now that hockey's back full-fledged and in earnest. And so Robbie has made all of the arrangements. We are on Zoom live, streaming both audio and video. The audio portion of this podcast will be made as usual in its podcast form over its usual distribution channels, Podbean, of course, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and et cetera, et cetera. So don't worry about that. If you enjoy the audio, you're used to that, there'll still be that. But we'd like to make this a special version. So right off the top, thank you, Robbie, kind sir, for assisting and getting us off the ground with that. So, all right, let's just jump right into it. Today was the final day of the round robin / qualifying round, the fake playoffs, if you will, as I'd like to call them. And the standings stand thus. The winner, as it were, of the round robin is Philly, so they get the number one slot. Oh God, I'm blanking. I can't believe I'm blanking. The not Boston. Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay gets gets the second slot. And by virtue of winning today, the Caps get the number 3 seed, which leaves Boston, who finished as the President's Trophy winners, in the number 4 slot. So what that means is the Washington Capitals, starting this coming Wednesday, I believe, will be playing Tuesday. Tuesday's game 1.
We don't know yet. We don't know.
Oh, it's
I thought they were saying today it was Tuesday. Okay.
I thought I heard Wednesday, but I guess it's still TBA. Okay,
right.
that's
we'll
fine.
know the full schedule tomorrow on Sports on the Hill podcast. But yeah, they haven't released it yet because they don't like to release the final TV schedules until Toronto that final game happens. Right.
I see. Which ought to be a barn burner, by the way. I highly recommend everybody watches that.
Yeah.
8:00.
Yeah.
8:00 tonight. Yes. But yes, by virtue of that, so we know the who and the what, just not the when. Our opponent will be the New York Islanders, led, of course, by former Capitals head coach Barry Trotz. We'll get to a preview of that in a moment, but I want to briefly, as we always do, discuss the 3 games that led up to it.
Gil, can I ask you a quick question before we get into it? So I have the ability to share screen and put stats live on the screen while you're talking. Are you okay if I to do that for this game?
I am more than okay with that.
Okay.
I would love that.
Yeah.
That'd be sweet.
All right, there you go.
Okay, so as you can see, that is the basic recap of the first game, which was against the Lightning, which of course ended in the, and I'm glad you can't see me right now, but with the dreaded
You actually can't see you in the upper corner. You can still see you.
Oh,
you'll be in the corner.
Oh darn! Oh darn! I thought I was hiding. Maybe I've never used Zoom before. I'm not.
All right, there you go.
unfamiliar with webcam use, but yeah. Anyway, as you heard and hopefully not saw, but saw, yeah, I don't much care for the shootout, but that's how it ended. And all of Glen Burnie probably also knows because as I was listening on my car radio on my way home, I yelled out the F-bomb very, very loudly.
Huh? I
I
mean, a
think I
proud
caused
moment.
I think I caused the ice cream truck to swerve unnecessarily because of that, but that's another story. Anyway, so to briefly recap, brief summary of the action. Not going to get into too many of the stats, I don't think. Caps started real slow. I didn't get to see a whole lot of this game. Most of it I heard on the radio. Didn't look like they were into it for the first period and a half, was pretty much the consensus I heard when I spoke with others about it. And then in the second period, of course, they finally woke up. They got a couple of goals. Richard Panik, I believe, opened the scoring there. So for all those that complained about him, he actually ended up having a decent game.
Yeah.
And then they hung on for the rest of the third period. Then they went to OT, not a whole lot there. And then the shootout, of course, well, we all know what happened there. So first, non-regulation loss, which they got a point out of. So not too bad for first game out, but could have been better. So moving on to the next game, which was against the Flyers this past Thursday. And as you can see, it was a 3-1 loss regulation. This game was by far the worst of the three that they played. Without question. Travis Boyd, the only goal of the game. As I always say, when he's out there, stuff happens. So given the all of a sudden dearth of centers or questionable center depth that we have now, I think that was a good move to keep him in. I hope to see a lot more of him. I think he's going to permanent fixture to be on the third and fourth line. Kevin Hayes, as he always does, no matter what uniform he wears, kicks our ass. I don't know why, but he did. He had 3 assists this game. Scott Lawton, a pair of goals, and that was pretty much all they needed. Flyers clamped down. They did what they did. Look, the takeaway from this game, any of you out there listening who don't believe this team is for real, they are for real. What they did was just an hors d'oeuvre compared to what they can do in the playoffs. This is a dangerous team. They won all 3 games for a reason. Their chemistry is clicking all at the right time.
Yeah.
There's a
everyone's healthy.
Well, that too. Everyone's healthy on their side. They have a good coach. They have a good system, and everything's gelling. So there's a reason why they were pretty much knocking on the door as far as taking over the lead in the Metro. But they ran out of time and ran into something called COVID-19. So you know what happened with that.
Yeah.
But on the other half of things, not a very good effort overall with this team. As I was discussing I made the point with both Robbie and Anna on our Facebook Messenger chat. They seem to have been taking the mattress discounters approach to this, laying out and sleeping on it.
Yeah. This was definitely more frustrating than the Tampa Bay game. And I felt like this team it was an absolute disconnect across the board. And it was another one of those things where, Gil, you and I had talked about from the beginning, like, this is it. You know, this is the playoffs. This is the Stanley Cup playoffs. There's no reason to be dragging your heels and trying to, you know, get the rust out or whatever else. No, you got to come in 100%. And we definitely did not see this with the Washington Capitals. And I think it was interesting. I don't know what happened with Backstrom. I don't know if anybody heard what was going on with him.
Yeah, Bobby, I never actually heard, but it was kind of interesting because they obviously didn't say it was a game time decision what they were talking about. But yeah, no, I was very frustrated by the performance at first, but then also just overall, I just felt that the Flyers cared about the game a little bit more. They were just more into it than the Capitals for big stretches of this game. And then the last thing was just the penalty kill. Now, I know the Flyers and Boston have both got great penalty kill, and you saw that today in today's game too. But I thought the Flyers just have clamped down. I think we're 1 for 21 or something like that on the whole season. And that's going to be a problem if we face them again. So I'm hoping that Montreal can do us a lot of favors this postseason. And like they did with Pittsburgh, actually with that counter defense, maybe stifle some of the Flyers, because I think the Flyers in that matchup is pretty interesting. It could either be like a sweep by the Flyers, I can see it that way, or I could see Montreal coming back and really stifling them in some interesting ways, a la what they did with Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. I think that's going to be just a fantastic, everyone out to kill kind of thing. But the Flyers, I will say, on both the Tampa Bay and the Flyers game, and I think I put this on our Facebook page at some point, Oshie is doing exactly what fans want him to do, and I can't put him on a higher pedestal. He looks fantastic. He's giving it his all, as is Holtby. And those were kind of like my 2-star players. And then, there was a couple that I was like, oh, what the hell? Like, I don't know what's going on with Kuzi. He had a great game and then a terrible game. Backstrom, I don't know what was going on there. We were kind of going back and forth. And then those ones that you kind of expect to shine were not seen. So I don't know. I was not looking forward to this Boston game. Today, I think I even wrote Gil and was like, I'm not looking forward to this game. Like, Debbie Downer being kind of negative, but who was on the ice today? That was awesome. Caps hockey, considering they were out Eller, and Carlson, players like that. But I think that overall, that was the game that sort of made me feel better going into playing the Islanders.
I do want to say one quick shout out to Travis Boyd, though. I know we mentioned he got the goal. I thought he played a phenomenal game to sort of slot in where Eller was. I thought Gudas played really well. He was amped up to play against his former team. I think there was times where he was playing well. Hagelin, a similar situation, played against Philly a lot. I thought he played pretty well. Everybody else was a little bit ho-hum. They played Ovechkin well. They play stifling defense, so it makes the Capitals, who I thought did put effort at times, you don't notice it, though, just because I thought Pittsburgh's just such a punishing team, and they just come at you. They're relentless, and they've got a bunch of good lines. I forget how good those players are until we match up against them. And I'm like, they're the real deal. There's a reason why they won all 3 games. It's not just a fluke by any means. But I thought Travis Boyd stepped in well. I'm hoping that Eller, it's going to be close. He probably won't be able to play in that first game. We're on that countdown timer. He's got 4 days. Right. But congratulations to him and his family. Obviously, that's the right decision to go be with the birth of your child. But he got back there as quickly as he could, got into quarantine as quickly as he could, and he's there, and he has a countdown clock on his Instagram of when he could play again. So I appreciate the effort that he's put forth in obviously a difficult time for his family. He assumed, he's like, oh, it's great, it's a summer baby. That's not going to cause any issues for me, right? So, good, yeah. It didn't work out that way, though.
So the most telling stat of this game, and then we'll get off and move on to the last one, of course, would be the number of shots on goal, which would be 17. You're not going to win very many games with that many shots on goal, especially against a guy that they should have had, well, they've had success against in the past, and that's Brian Elliott. So I would have thought they might have wanted to come at him with more shots given that, but I don't know. And I guess the best way I can sum up this game was best described by my wife, and I will say, and I will quote, "We waited 3 months for this." I will not say that it was this something. I will not say the something.
Oh, come on.
But it was not good. Not good.
I do have to say one last thing. I just think that the Flyers are really dangerous for a whole host of reasons, but one of them is they've got 2 great goaltenders, right? Yeah. So, I mean, the fact that they were able to rotate both of them through this, where very few teams are risking an opportunity in that, but that means they're both ready, right? So I'm really nervous about that. And then in the West, the top 2 teams out West, there's a lot of question marks on who their goaltenders are. So a couple of teams have a few goaltenders, which I'm very jealous of. Obviously, I'm sad that our second goaltender got hurt in an ATV accident, non-hockey related, and that's why he's not in the bubble. But I mean, I do trust the 2 other guys we have, but they're not the same caliber as Holtby. But on the bright side, we don't have a goalie controversy. But on the downside, obviously a lot rests on Holtby, who's going to be a free agent at the end of this year.
Right.
Oh, we'll speak more to that later on. But to finish the recap, there was, of course, the final game of the 3-round robin today against the Bruins. And that, of course, was a 2-1 victory in regulation. Caps look much, much better this go around. So there weren't very many goals, so we can go through the scoring. TJ Oshie opened the scoring with in the dying seconds of the first period. I think it was 16 seconds left in the first period, with a wrister, and very good to see. And I do like the first period. I noticed overall the effort was great. I even though they only managed 2 shots,
the effort was there.
Sometimes that can be, the game before, it was a telling statistic. This time, not so much. The effort was definitely there. It just didn't result in shots. This is where you get into scoring chances versus shots. And the scoring chances did come through. They just couldn't get a shot off at one time. Kuzi had a very good chance in the opening minutes of the game. He had a chance very much in close, and then decided to sweep around, try to do a wrap, and that didn't work out, but he was very, very close. I thought he had a good chance in opening the scoring. So jumping ahead, second period, no goals at all. And then in the third period, who should come to the rescue? At 2:49 in the third.
Yes.
But someone we all know who wears number 43. I could have sworn when I saw this, it was a backhander, but it's listed as a wrister. But he kind of put in a nice little deke before he let it go, and it put it past Tuukka Rask for his first of this postseason, which turned out to be the game-winning goal. Jake DeBrusk got one back for the Bruins about 8 minutes later, and then it was nail-biting and taco chip eating time for us. But they hung on for the victory, thank goodness. Braden Holtby, he was very good in all 3 games. This was probably, and we haven't said this in a long time, but this was probably a virtuoso performance for them. As you can see, as Robbie's pointing out, 31 shots against, only 1 goal allowed for a .968 save percentage for this game. I think Holtby is in the right place. He is exactly where we need him to be. Yeah. And if you remember, he was one of the keys that I mentioned for this team to be successful. He has to be where he was in 2018.
Yeah.
And another one of those keys, of course, is Tom Wilson stepping up. Now he was stepping up physically through this whole round robin. Right. Now he puts himself on the board. So good to see that as well. So that's 2 out of 4.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, Oshie, Holtby, fantastic. This whole series, they're consistent. Tommy scoring today is just only going to motivate him and other players that much more. We all know that Rana has that competitive streak where it is killing him that he is not scoring, but it's not going to stop him from trying. And also you already know that everyone's after number 8. I mean, so there's giving these opportunities for other players to come in. I will say I've been impressed with the hits from Mr. 9. And that's a very big deal that I have to say this, but since we have Robbie on, I will acknowledge Dimitri. But I will say that he has stepped up, and I don't know if it's because Carlson's been out or whatever has changed, but he has had a really great game. And I think that Michael Kempney, Gil, you and I talked about this last week, is back, and I'm loving what I'm seeing. And Dylan, it's just good all around today. It was a good, warm, fuzzy Caps game watching.
Yes, I have to give a little shout out here. Stuart Small's watching with us now. We've got a couple of Caps fans rooting in. I will let you guys know questions and stuff as they come in. He mentioned, gee, too bad we didn't trade Holtby. He's such a bum. You know, so right, there was people who talked that way, you know, in the middle of the season, right, saying, well, we're not going to get anything for at the end of the season, you know, may as well get rid of him, right? I think we've talked about that before, and I was like, you know, I'd like to play him out on a contract year and see how he does. Maybe he ends with a cup, maybe he gets a big payday somewhere, but I'll take a second cup and say thank you very much if we don't get to keep you, and you will be missed, you know, but you know, he's been fantastic, and he also mentioned that Dmitry Orlov is channeling Scott Stevens. Yeah, so it's incredible hit. If you didn't catch it, I've shared it to the PowerPlay Point podcast page.
Slow-mo.
And a super slow-mo. I slow-moed their slow-mo, and you can watch the life of him leave as the hit is happening, and it is fantastic, and it's probably got over 1,000 views by now, and you know, everyone in Caps groups are enjoying it. I've shared it to a bunch of Caps groups, so hopefully people are able to enjoy that hit a little bit.
But I will give credit when credit is due, and I usually am a can't stand number 9 because he frustrates me. He does good, and then all of a sudden he's in, you know, 2 minutes for slashing, 2 minutes for tripping, and it's like, come on, be consistent. And he went out there and he's showing that physical side of him, and he's playing smart hockey. And so I'm okay with number 9. Yeah, let's hope he continues that. And the one player I will say that I keep talking and I keep kind of hounding about is Kovacic. Today was the first game that I felt we saw a little spark. We saw his definitely his skill. It's there. I don't know what it is, but I just need something more. I really, really am expecting a lot from him, and maybe that's just, you know, he's got pressure on him regardless, but he's the one player that I feel I'm just, you know, come on. I know you have it. Show me what you got. Like, let's truly see what you have going into this, you know, into this next series.
Well, we talked about this last week. I think part of that comes from the fact that he's not really, no offense to guys like Carl Hagelin, Travis Boyd, and Richard Panik, but when you're on a line with guys like that, they're good players, but those aren't the kind of guys that are going to help you create scoring opportunities. Now, if Coach Reardon is of this mindset that, hey, why not give it a go? Now, maybe, you know, late in the game, double shift him, give him some time on the second, even the first line, then maybe you'll see more of what he can do. But as it is now, you're going to see his best when he's on that second power play unit. And that's where, like you said, that's where he shined today. I saw him go after the puck and go after the net like he was 10 years younger.
And that's what I want to see. Like that, those are those things. So I get that, you know, maybe he needs to be, like you said, shifted around, but I will say I was proud of Reardon for kind of moving that first and second line around a little bit, get that chemistry going. And for everyone who wants to, you know, talk shit about Todd Reardon, I'm not going to say I'm always going to come to his defense, but I will come to his defense that I feel like we got to give him some slack. He does know these players. He knows what works, and no, we don't see a Torts hothead screaming, you know, like smoke coming out of his ears kind of moment on the bench. We don't know what goes on in the locker room, but I feel like he knows these players and he knows what works best for them. And I think that spoke volumes with, you know, the koozie kind of sit out. You know, he was kind of fucking around on the ice, and it was like, what are you doing? And, you know, there was sort of that consequence, and he shifted lines around today. And I thought, okay, let's, you know, cut him some slack. So he's not a yeller, but he knows what he's doing. And I think that he, you know, what does he have to lose? he's in to win this for these boys, for these players as much as anybody. So why would he want to be, you know, kind of half-assing his job or something else? So I think that today we saw a different side of Todd Reardon, and I thought it was great.
Yeah, Stuart's saying that it's his first head coaching job. He's bound to make mistakes. And it's interesting because,
I agree.
You know, some people were like, well, we should have kept Trotz. I mean, he had been on his way out for a while. I mean, they wanted to fire him earlier that season. I mean, this is the guy that they had put their sights on, that they said this is the future of the Capitals. They banked on that, and they weren't willing to spend the extra money on Trotz. They were going to go ahead and give Trotz the 2-year extension that they had previously agreed on a cheaper rate. But when he wanted more and to get out of it, they said, well, you weren't the guy we necessarily wanted. Thank you for the cup, but we're going to try it this way. It's yet to be seen if that's the right decision, right? I mean, last year we got some injuries, so I don't know if I blame it all on coaching. This year we have to see if he makes the adjustments because he worked under Trotz for a long time, so it'll be interesting to see how they battle against each other. And they have similar systems, and how when the systems go against each other, and the assistant coaches know each other well too. And it's going to be definitely a tough matchup for sure, and something to definitely look forward to next week.
Yeah, I agree.
So getting back to the 4 keys that I mentioned that we discussed on last week's episode, so that we went through 2 of them. The other 2, of course, were the best players being the best players. Well, they weren't always the best players, not in these past 3 games. I'm not going to say Ovechkin was a ghost. He put in the effort. He just wasn't getting the result. But I mean, yeah, we, like you said about Kovalchuk, we just need more. Backstrom looks like he's got something wrong with him. Maybe, just maybe. I mean, it's frustrating the crap out of me that we're not being told what's wrong. So I don't know if the back and forth about is he in, is he out was, just precautionary. I don't know, but if he is hurt, I mean, why not sit him? But something looks a little off about him. He's lost about a half a step. So maybe the next few days, resting up, maybe that'll be good for him. But the final key was the defense. And when you look at it, they didn't play half bad. Yes, Braden Holtby bailed them out time after time after time these past 3 games. But if you think about it, the defense didn't really play that badly. And they added Martin Favari in today's lineup. I thought he acquitted himself very well.
Absolutely.
And I like his speed. I like his puck handling. He's keeping up. He's having no problems whatsoever.
Well, and he had a ton of minutes. I think was it like 15 minutes or something, 15:41 or something.
Pretty great.
Packed on the minutes for a third pairing defenseman. So yeah, that's very, very, very encouraging. I'd like to see more of him, but I don't know. I don't know for sure if it was the absence of Karlsson or they were just out of sync. I don't know, but they weren't bad. They weren't awful. They just weren't, shut down great, but they weren't awful either. So
I don't think that they were, like, I will say Tampa Bay Flyers game, I don't know who was on ice. It was, do you want to chalk it up to Karlsson not being there? Possibly. But I feel like today, kind of, they just put all bullshit aside and were like, this is it, if he's on the ice or not. And, they put Gudis out. They look good today. They looked like they weren't that kind of half, like you said, half step, half second behind, which is what I saw from Karlsson when he got injured in the one game. He just seemed to be kind of, a step behind all of his teammates. So I feel like what we saw today is a positive thing for them moving forward. If Karlsson I think they're just saving Karlsson, to be honest, for, like they probably could have put him in today and they didn't, and that's fine. It worked in our favor regardless. And then I think, so he'll be 100% Tuesday, Wednesday, whenever they decide to go against the Islanders.
Right. Well, yeah. And that was another frustrating thing. Obviously the offense suffered without Karlsson. And that's of course a whole other dimension to his game. But the fact that we just don't know what his true condition is, whether or not he's sitting out because these games didn't really matter, or it was just precautionary, or, I don't know. I don't like this whole being left in the dark thing, because it just seemed to me, and I discussed this with a lot of other people watching the games, that like the officials of the team, the coaching staff was waiting for something. So what that makes you wonder, what could they have possibly been waiting for? DJ Khaled to be their motivational coach, Adina Menzel to sing their song? I don't know. Waiting for something here, but I guess we'll find out. All of the above. Yeah, I guess we'll find out.
And the teams that they played are good. I mean, they're the top, 3 of the other top 4 teams in the East. I mean, and there's not a lot to going all out for them, because if you chance injury, then it's wasted in a round that you kind of get a bye through. So you have to have that sort of, try hard to get yourself ready for the next round, but not try too hard that anyone gets injured, right? So it's a sort of tight rope that you got to walk, and it's a difficult thing. But I thought today was reassuring. I like that they got better as the game progressed, which is what you want to see, especially in the last one. I'm hoping the fact that we get to play so close to the next round, and we've had big chunks of rest along the way, somehow is helpful. We don't know if obviously going from those more competitive games to into this next round is better or worse. We've never done this before, but I'm hoping that they all got through it a little earlier. They may have gotten a little rust back on again, I'm hoping, right? And I'm hoping that we played a really good, tough game today. Maybe we could be right there. And we've had this sort of 1 day off, 1 day on, 2 days off. And so we're going to be going into that again. So I'm hoping, that sort of plays well, at least for the first game, because I think that it will be a critical first game. And I'm curious if we'll get Eller back, but I really do think, that might be, we lost Anna for a second. Hopefully she'll be able to come back on.
I'm here. Sorry, I had to sneeze.
Okay. All right, got it. Sounds good. So it will definitely be a challenge for sure. I think Eller will be an interesting question mark, right? Whether or not we'll be able to slot him in that first game. I really want to see how he does with Kovalchuk, but I've seen some other creative lineups that fans have been putting up that they want to see. At one point, what happens if you put Kuzi, Kovi, and Ovi all together on one line? What would happen? So it would be interesting for sure. And I think that they could become creative with some of these lineup changes. And maybe we haven't seen everything, right? Because you don't want to tell everything too soon, you don't want to give away too much.
That's what I was saying. Maybe throw them together as a 1 or 2 shift experiment. But yeah, like you said, don't show all your cards too early, and so that they may have that plan, but not something they wanted to show in the this preliminary round robin. But overall, okay. So first 2 games, if you could throw them out, which we can't, obviously, not good. But this game, like you said, Robbie, was very, very reassuring. If they come at it with that kind of an effort. Now, again, the shots can be a telling statistic, but sometimes they don't tell the whole story. If you go over the number of shots, I think it was something like 28 in the first game, 21 against the Flyers, but 31 they gave up. The defense gave up this game. But the key here was limiting the quality chances. I don't recall David Pasternak, for example, getting more than maybe 1 or 2 high danger chances, point blank on Holtby the whole 60 minutes. So if you can do that, then you've got a chance. So the defense, they didn't step up for the first 2 games, but they did in this last game. Mm-hmm. So the trend is going in the right direction, at least. So that's something that looks good. What I didn't like was that the best players, for the most part, except for Oshie, were largely silent. So I'm hoping there's no drought there, but like Anna, like you mentioned, though, maybe a little line shifting, a little chemistry mix.
I don't think that it's
just maybe.
I think that that if we hadn't seen Pasta is the perfect example, from another team who is tied with, or he's tied with Ovechkin, right, with goals.
Yes.
Yeah. So both those players, are not scoring, but it's because they're the target. They're the expected person. They're the go-to. So the other teams are on those guys' ass like crazy. So had we not seen it like in regards to Pasta not scoring, then I would have been like, okay, what's going on with OV? He's kind of playing at 75%. But that's not his style. He's doing what he can, but he is just, got a ton of teammates. They're all over him. So I think he's doing what he can, but I think that when we spoke last week was the perfect reason to see other players step up and start scoring, and which is why I'm surprised I haven't seen more from Vrana, but I know that he's determined, so we'll see it. And I think Tommy scoring today was a good, shift in the right direction, kind of get that attention off of Ovechkin, and it'll swing back, and we'll see the grade 8 do amazing in the next series. But I feel like, you just have those target players that the other teams are to go after, and they're going to protect him for those 60 minutes.
Real quickly, I wanted to point out, Rob Carlin this morning had a really great tweet, or maybe it was last night, that the top scorers for both teams, Ovechkin with 48, Pasternak with 48, Marchand with 31, Bergeron with 28, Oshie with 26, and Vrana with 25, all had not scored a goal through the first 2 games. So obviously teams know to key in on them. And so I was happy to see that the first one and the only one of that whole group, I believe, to score today was Oshie, right?
Yeah.
So, obviously the top 2 lines need to produce, but it's going to fall on that third line. It's like which third and fourth lines can out third and fourth line the other, because the Islanders also have some, firepower. I also saw that Rob Carlin, after in the post game, he had a good quote saying they've played each other 8 times since Barry Trotz has become coach of the Islanders. And what is it in the standings? It's 4-4. All the games have been won on the road. So Trotz has gone into Washington and won 4 times. We've gone into New York and beat him 4 times. So it's pretty even. They've obviously never played on a neutral site before, but it's going to be a tough matchup because they have a tough top 2 lines as well. And we're basically he knows our team better than anybody else. We're not so different than that 2018 team that won it all. And the system hasn't changed drastically, and he knows all the strengths and weaknesses and counter. I mean, he's running the same system. We know the strengths and weaknesses of our system as well. So it's going to be a tough matchup for sure.
Yeah. Well, and I think that it's when you go, and that's why, we can't consider like any team a sure thing, like saying like I was pulling for the Island to say that I really wanted to see them play against the Islanders, not because it was the Islanders over Carolina, but because I think that the Caps needed the win. They needed the motivation. They needed that kind of drive to get them in the right mindset to say, okay, now we've got this, regardless if it's our, former coach or not. But every team that's playing in these playoffs is here for a reason. Like they earned it, so it's that's what makes it so exciting. So we earned our spot. We just have to prove it and, and play smart hockey, stay out of the sin bin, play 5-on-5, be where you're supposed to be, but given it 100%, but most importantly, like play the 60 minutes of hockey. I don't want to see 20 minutes of like, meh. And then all of a sudden we're trying to like, make up kind of thing, like how Toronto played the other night.
Yeah, a couple moments of weakness and they're going to be knocked out quickly for sure. The Islanders are such an interesting team, but obviously we're very different than Florida. So they looked very good against a Florida team that can't really put up goals in the same kind of way. It'll be interesting to see how they match up and how they'll have to play very differently versus the Capitals. But Trotz was very good at making adjustments with the team and the structure to try to fit the opponent. We just have to hope that our coach and Todd Reardon, is as good, if not better, than Trotz is. And it's going to be a chess match. Yeah.
It is. I have faith in Reardon.
I didn't want to play Carolina again because I was scared that we might be in the heads from last year. I know that we lost TJ Oshie, and that's a big part of it. But you never want to have a team that has a lot of confidence. I know that Carolina also comes in after steamrolling poor Rangers and Brian Brennan. But I don't want anyone with sort of that sort of momentum coming at us. I would rather play a team that even fell once to Florida, right? So if I have to pick one of those two teams right now, I think the Islanders are a little bit less lethal.
Well, they don't have the firepower, that's for sure. They don't have that all-world elite scorer. They don't even have a secondary scorer. So that kind of is what evens things out. But Barry Trotz's calling card has always been, I can take any team and teach them to play clamp down, shut it down, balls against the boards. You can't get to the middle of the ice defense all of his career. And by God, he's done it, as the Islanders coach. And I've even seen it. I've seen it live against the Caps where he's done that too. So that in and of itself scares me. But the fact that, as I said, the fact that they don't have that number one scoring threat kind of evens things out. So where does that leave this series? Well, I'll tell you, the series is going to be won and lost in the third and the fourth lines. Whichever third and fourth lines steps up for these two teams, that's where the series is going to be won and lost. We know Holtby is going to do his thing. Mm-hmm. The Islanders, they've got Varlamov. He didn't look too bad. He didn't blow up my skirt, but he didn't look too bad. We know what he can do. He can get hot, but he can get cold too. But I'm not I'm neither afraid of him nor am I down on him. So he's a pretty good.
I wanted to show that I am a big Varlamov fan. I always have been. He still sits on my wall currently. I now turned it around. You notice that you don't see Varlamov, but I can assure you that it is a Varlamov jersey.
His was, and lest we all forget, he had the save before Braden Holtby had the save. So let's not forget that. So Varley's not to be one to underestimate it. So I won't say the goalies are a wash. I think we have the better goalie overall as far as playoff testing and experience, but that kind of evens out. So again, where it's going to be won and lost is the bottom two lines. I want to see a lot of Travis Boyd. Lars Eller has to step up. Panik has got to be in there. I haven't had a chance to mention him at all, and he's second line, but Jake Verana has to stop being Jake the Snake Bit. And what that means is he's got to get more chances. So I'm not worried about the second line, but at the same time, he's got to start converting too.
Yeah.
But it's going to come down to which third and fourth lines of each team play the best, because those are the minutes that are going to decide this game.
Yeah. One other thing to sort of piggyback off that, because I think that you're right. And especially the only thing that changes in these, so there's no fans, there's no advantage. You're not playing to make people boo. You're not playing to make people cheer, right? So that's all been taken out of it. I thought it was pretty funny that they put fake, like actual fans, in the stands, just to say that they had fans there. But, it changed. The only thing that's different, right, is the line changes, right? Who gets the last change and the last say, and a little bit with the faceoff dot. But we've proven in 2018 that the faceoff dot didn't matter that much. If you can win the faceoff, you can win it either way, whether you're home or road. But the line changes. And so I think when a line gets stuck out there on an icing, and what line you can throw out there, that's going to be a key moment. So can the third and fourth line deal with that if they're caught on an icing, or can they, convert, when on offense, our first line, when they have to defend when they're stuck in the back, right? So those are some key things, but also line adjustments. Can we rely on putting our third and fourth line on their top line to kind of grind out minutes in certain key moments? And you have to, in 2018, we proved that we could win on the road. And I think that is going to be such an important thing to fall back on. Now, we don't have the face-off guys that we once had. And so I worry about that at times. And I thought TJ Oshie was phenomenal at the dot today because in that top, in that sort of second line, the fact that you can sort of interchange between him and Backstrom, and if Backstrom's kicked out, that you got another guy in TJ Oshie that can take it is important. But I like what you were saying before. I think Verona needs to get going. If not, maybe we need to sort of tinker with who gets that other, who's slotted with, Ovi, with Nicholas and with Oshie, because like that produces an incredible combination. So whoever's with them really needs to step up, because there's a lot of chemistry there, and I think a lot of talent, speed, and skill. And I know that Verona can do it. We put it on Anna's screen. If you're seeing him, we trust on him, but he just got to step it up to the next level. And who knows? We talked about this before. Did they put it all on the line these last couple of games? No. So, what happens when they do? What happens when Ovechkin takes it to the next level? Because I haven't seen a lot from him, but we know that he can, and I'm sure that he was saving some in the tank for it. So, and same thing with Kuznetsov. I think Kuzi had a lot of question marks through the first two games. I thought he played a better game today, but he still isn't the dominant Kuzi that we can see. And he's another guy that can be like an average NHL player, and that like a sort of like an Alex Semin, right? Yeah. But he can also take it to almost the Ovechkin level, right? I mean, there was a big question in 2018 on who should win the Conn Smythe, right? So, it wasn't. We gave it to Ovi because he's got the big name, but Kuzi had just as he had many more points, and he had contributed just as much, if not more, than Ovechkin did to that championship.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm hoping going into this series, the players that I want to see, and I'll throw this out to you guys too. Let's just say 3 players that we hope to see either continue or want to see more from. I will say I'll go with Tommy. I think when he starts to play and he's scoring, he's out of the sin bin, that's a Tom Wilson that we need to see. Do I want to see him against Ryan Reeves? Don't even get me started. but I think that he's still showing that mature side. He's physical. His game is on. I think that we're going to see more from Tom Wilson. Who I want to see really shine is the Jacob Vrana and Garnet Hathaway. Those are my 2 that I really feel like are going to shine, hopefully with the Islanders and the next series. But those are my 2 players that I have my eye on, that I want to see more from. And I just want Tommy to just continue doing what he's doing.
Yeah. Gil, I'll let you go first. What are some, any other players that you think that really need to step it up or that you want to see more from?
Well, I don't want to say his name because I don't want to single him out because I'm disappointed in him. I just want to see more of him and see more from him as a result. And that's Martin Favari. And that is, he's probably going to be the X factor in all this, because I don't see, unfortunately, I just don't see Radko Gudas making it back in the lineup once John Carlson, they decide to do what to do with him and he gets back in. I like his calmness with the puck. I like his game away from the puck. He's not going to dazzle you with his speed, but nor will you find him out of position too much either. And I don't think too many teams have a book on him either. So he is my X factor. And so if he can give you 15 to 20 quality minutes, no matter what pairing he's on, then those are 15 to 20 minutes in the game. Nothing bad's going to happen. So that's kind of, I think he's ready for second pairing minutes. I think he can handle it. He's definitely got the legs for it. He's got the youth for it. I'm not going to say the whole thing rests on him or the whole defense for that matter. But if, Carlson continues to be absent from the lineup, somebody is going to have to fill in the gap. And right now it's by committee. Now, we mentioned Dmitry Orlov. If he keeps on playing like he played today, if he could bottle that and drink it every day for the next 65 days, we'll be fine.
Yeah,
I think.
But we know it won't happen.
But we know it won't happen, unfortunately.
He's not consistent. So.
We're gonna get damn it Orlov at least 2-3 days a week going over these next few playoff weeks. So unfortunately, we're stuck with that. So that's where your Favari comes in. So let's Siegenthaler. He's been quietly effective. Yeah. Nobody's said a whole lot about him, but he hasn't seemed out of place. He's been quietly effective. Last year, he looked like he was way out of place. He's grown so much in 1 year. I'd like to see more out of him. He doesn't have to put up the points. He just doesn't have to do anything. He just can't do anything stupid away from the puck like he did a couple of times last year. That's all we need. So just those guys playing a solid game, I think the offense will start clicking. Holtby's already in the right headspace. Just we can trust the D a little bit more, and they can start finding ways to generate offense from their end, because we just don't know what's going on with Carlson. So because of that, and I said this before, the offense is suffering. If they can start figuring out a way to do better breakouts, move the puck from their end to the other side without getting caught or without icing it or whatever, that's going to start turning the tide. And then, of course, as I said, the third and fourth line playing the way they ought to. You mentioned Garnet Hathaway. You mentioned Eller. But for me, it's going to be those young defensemen that are going to play their part and have to step up and who I'd like to see start to make a name for themselves, starting with this series.
Yeah, so I want to piggyback off some of that, because I thought what was so successful in 2018 was Christian Djoos, right? We don't have him anymore, but he's sort of young and is a good defender. And so, you can sort of see some of what he has, contributed to the team being taken up by some of these other players that we've mentioned. But I agree. I like that we have a bunch of different type of defenders, in the sense that you may slot different people in and create lineups and matchups, but depending on who you're playing, because obviously the systems that we're going to be going up against will vary drastically, right? So who you might be putting in the lineup against the Islanders might be different than the Bruins or maybe Tampa Bay or even Philadelphia. So it'd be interesting to see how they juggle those lineups, and I hope John Carlson can come back, because it's rare that you have somebody, top 3 defender in the league. He's up for the Norris Trophy. We talked about this a lot on Sports on the Hill podcast, but it's just such an incredible part of that power play. And I think that he's so needed. He's a calming factor. He's been a Capital for so long. He has come up through the system with the Hershey Bears and all that. And I hope that he's okay, and I hope that this is all precautionary, and that he just comes back and just has a crazy awesome first game, because I think that the power play really feeds off of him, and we've seen a big lack on that. And I think power play will be a huge difference maker. Obviously, special teams are always key. We got to be able to kill. I thought the kills looked really good. I thought they were great today. Yeah, and the defensive structure was really good today. Going back to some of the young guys, there's not things that will step out of my mind that I can give exact plays and examples for. But as you were saying earlier, Gil, even though there was 30 shots or whatever, it wasn't like, I thought the structure was good around it. They got the one and done, and they were out, and they're out of the zone. There wasn't a lot of rebounds and multiple shots at high danger positions. I think that the fact that they were able to limit some of that is really important. But I also want to piggyback on the Tom Wilson thing. I think it's important for him to stay out of the penalty box, and that speed and that shot, it could be an X factor. People forget that he's got that shot. And it was really funny before the game. All these Boston fans were like, make sure you get Tom Wilson, between the numbers, and make sure he goes down, he gets hurt. I can't wait for him to get hurt. And they were talking a lot of dirty shit on some, some different boards, and I'm happy that he's the one who ended up scoring the game-winning goal, right? Yeah. If I do the math correct, so
he didn't have to fight to prove
didn't fight, didn't do anything dirty. Yeah. He can be like that, because remember the games that he missed for the Capitals could have really hurt them in 2018, and in the end we were able to rally around it, and it didn't end up nailing them. We were able to win Game 6 without him or whatever against the Penguins, but he's such an important, vital key. He's sort of the spoon that mixes the drink, right? Because no one's going to mess with Kuzi when you got Tom Wilson on the ice, right? And I think Kuzi could be messed with, in certain lineups in certain situations. And so by putting them together, and then people start to focus on them and at least Ovechkin open, that dynamic, even though it isn't a lineup that I would have ever put pen to paper, right? I never would have said Kuzi, Ovi, Tom Wilson, that's the top line for the Washington Capitals. It worked in 2018. Yeah. I would have never guessed that you could have separated Nicholas Backstrom and Ovechkin and that we would win a cup by doing it. I never would have thought it, right? Because they came into the league together. They were the dynamic duo. I mean, but having them on two separate lines opens up lots of possibilities. And it shocks me. It still to this day shocks me 2 years later, but it worked. And so we now know that it works, and we got to get back to that sort of running 3 and 4 lines concurrently like we did in 2018.
I know, Gil, you wanna wrap up?
Well, so Anna, I don't think you've had a chance to put out who you think is a key as far as or who you want to see do more.
I started the conversation.
He started it.
Okay. I just want to make sure you had your say as far as that topic goes.
Yeah,
but
mine was Wilson and Garnet Hathaway and Vrana.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. All right, so we're actually starting to get a little short on time, so I want to start wrapping it up here. Now, were there any other questions from those who may be streaming this? Those who have
we had no more questions. Just a lot of people did jump in and jump out, so I really appreciate everyone for doing that. I know that we haven't done this live before, and we can take questions in the future. But I really appreciate Stuart and a bunch of people that stuck with it for the whole time. And so, I mean, if anyone has any questions right now, they can add it to the thing real quick. But I did want to give a couple of little shout outs. Obviously, this podcast I'm going to put up on SportsOTHP.com separately, so people can watch the video, and then I'll link over obviously to the audio once that's been posted as well. Always check out SportsOTHP.com. You can always click the PowerPlay Point podcast button. You click on it, it opens up on Podbean, and you can click on it right there. You can always listen to all of our previous shows. We're also now on a new platform. So if you click the Listen Now button, you can check us out on 4 or 5 different platforms as well: Apple Podcast Music and basically all the ones that you normally can. But click on sportsothp.com. It's got all the links for everything that you need, including the videos, the posts. And I just also want to mention that tomorrow we're going to be starting at 7 o'clock, and Anna will be joining the Hockey Roundtable again. And we'll be breaking down some of those games that we just mentioned. Well, we already broke down the first one, so we'll break down the last 2 games. Since we did a post-game show last week. And so we'll break down the 2, and then we'll talk a little bit more about this upcoming series, but also talk about the NHL playoffs as a whole. I know we didn't get a time to talk about this today, but I really enjoyed all of the series. Even the round robins, I think at moments they were a little lackluster, but other moments they were good to shootouts and be exciting, even though we hate the shootout. There were exciting matchups, and I think this is a lot better tournament than a lot of people thought going into it. I think a lot of people are sometimes eating their words and saying, I've at least been thinking it's like a March Madness version. I don't think it should be every year. I know that some coaches thought that it could be an every year thing, and then some players were like, hell no, because you can't have that many teams making it, because it does diminish the regular season. I have to say that. But in this situation, it was done well. Toronto has done a great job. There's been no positive tests, and everything's from the camera angles, the additional screens that they've done, and everything has seemed seamless. I think the post-game shows have been funny because they're doing exactly what we're doing here on Zoom, no more, no less, and that's worked for them in moments, and it's also not worked for them in moments. It's been a really exciting first week, and I'm really excited to break down some of those series with Anna and Carol, and maybe we'll get Brian Brennan in again. I don't know if he'll want to talk about those Rangers, but overall, other than that series, they were all very exciting, and I'm looking forward to this Toronto versus Columbus game tonight at 8 o'clock, and I will Mentioned that's the only one that went 5. All the other series didn't. But the fact that 2 12 seeds made it over 2 5 seeds, including Pittsburgh going down, is really incredible. And I just think that overall it's been a really exciting, and we'll definitely break down how all those series went and preview the next, since we'll know all the playoff matchups and hopefully times by tomorrow. And also I want to do one other little shout out to the NHL draft, where one of these teams that were knocked out, one of these 8 teams that were knocked out, get the number 1 seed. And we're going to sit here, we're going to pray, we're going to put it in the air that it's not going to be the Penguins, because otherwise I know that it's been rigged, right? So we know it's rigged if it's the Penguins.
Yes.
On it right here.
For sure.
And we hope that it is not them, so that way it can prove that it's not being rigged. So NHL, listen to me right now and don't rig it. Pick somebody else. I'm hoping that it's the Oilers or maybe Florida. Those are teams that maybe deserve it a little bit more than like Rangers or a Penguins. But I would even be okay if the Rangers had it. I wouldn't like it. But as long as it's not the Penguins, I will be okay. So it's very simple. That's my decree before at the end of this podcast here. Please don't let it be the Penguins.
So they're actually going to announce that tomorrow.
At 6 o'clock tomorrow, I believe.
Okay. So,
So by my podcast time at the start of it, it'll be breaking news, and I will be very happy on camera or be very, very angry.
That's going to be, yeah, that's going to be.
Let it happen.
But like you said, yeah, I've been thinking the exact same thing. If it is Pittsburgh whose ball comes out, yeah, we'll know the fix is in.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and wind it up now. Anna, did you have any last thoughts before we go off the air?
No. Thanks, Robbie, for your help. The graphics are fantastic. And I look forward, I'll talk to you 24 hours.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you guys for doing this with me. It was a lot of fun. And yeah, maybe we'll do another one at some point down the line. I'd love to do it again for sure.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Robbie, so much. Thank you, Anna, of course, for being on camera with us and gracing us with yourself.
Yes.
So once again, this was a Zoom meeting that was streamed live, but yes, we will make the audio available in podcast form for those of you out there who prefer that. But once again, Mr. Robbie Gross of the Sports on the Hill podcast, thank you very much for organizing this and for in effect hosting and producing this. So thank you again, sir. Next week, we will hopefully be 1 or 2 games into the first round series. Finally, the playoffs against the Islanders. We will recap whatever games have been played by Sunday evening and go over how the team is doing then. So hopefully it'll be even or kind of a split or kind of a lead. So we'll see, but we'll see how that shakes out. So for Robbie Gross and, of course, Anna Knox, this is the Blue Liner on Point, signing off and reminding you that the Joker has to keep a nightlight in his room when he goes to bed. You know why? Because he's afraid of the dark night.
Nope. Still nothing.
Hallelujah, and let's go Caps.
Go Caps.
Let's go Caps.